have rolled out. So if we hit, they're here for a minute. They're here for a minute.
Okay. It sounds fine. It sounds perfect right now.
Okay.
Golden, man.
I guess we have to reshare this now. So let's see if that works.
Okay.
We'll keep it going. The connection strength is probably the best we've ever had with a guest on here.
And Kyle just tested our internet here, and he said it's super, super good.
Yeah, he just texted me 85. So that's really high.
Sounds like a pretty decent number.
I think so.
Sure.
All right. So we'll try sharing this out. If anyone wants to share this all over the place.
Yeah, help us out here. We truly appreciate it, man. So let's get after it. Help us out, everybody, all the Sons of the Hunt Nation, man, all the community, get after it. Let's get this moving. Thank you. All right. There we go. There we go. All right, sweet. Yeah, because I'm going to try and boost it back around because my producer left me. She's eating her dinner.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're doing really good here.
Good. Sounds good. And
yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, we still have a good connection. Fixed.
Cool.
We're getting some comments now. Everyone says it's fixed.
Great.
Sweet.
Great.
Let's people could drop their comments, questions for Donnie. This is going to be an interesting audio once
right.
Get together.
Yeah, we can kind of clip it around a little bit. The magic of editing.
Well, we really didn't get started at all, so right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna.
No. And I could take another stab at being a little bit more articulate this time around, you know. Stumbling over my words.
It's always that way.
It was a mess.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to share it out to a couple of groups now.
And we'll do this in person when I'm still traveling with COVID, but a lot of people are hanging tight, but I'm willing and ready to face the beast.
Buddy, I'm with you.
You're probably social distancing with the best of them. You're you're not around people, so.
But I'm also a man that probably lives with more parasites than most people.
Yeah.
I haven't boiled water in about 20 years.
Well, that's good. See, you're prepared for the apocalypse, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right. Where's the
you know what? So now we're not live on YouTube. Maybe that was
that's what was screwing us up, man.
Maybe that was their issue. I don't know. But we're on Facebook, so we're gonna roll with what looks good, sounds good.
Agreed.
Okay. And you said that's new technology anyway, right? The fact that they could be linked up.
Yeah, I got an email from BeLive today that was like, we upgraded our software. You could stream full HD now and stream to YouTube simultaneously. And I was like, this is fate. This is perfect. Like, this is going to be one of our biggest podcasts yet. And I was like, we have so many more opportunities now, but no. It's just going to be the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that.
All right, we're getting there. I got a couple of them throwing them out there.
More. We're back up to like 40-some live viewers. I think
Beautiful.
Some people, you can share it out if you want. We're back with Donnie. We've got the audio's rolling. So I'll cut off all that other audio and we'll just start over.
Sounds like a plan. All right,
I think that'd be good.
All right. So at this point, I think people we know who you are. We dove into that a little bit, but I do want to go back to
product placement.
Yeah, we could start there with the product placement, like you said, with Benelli kind of gave you free reign, like just go with it, and that's, I mean, right off the bat, that makes me want to go look into Benelli because it just sounds like a great company, open-minded company. But with product placement now and social media, I kind of feel like it's distorting the message that we should be sending. And we talked about a little bit, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think it's really tough to draw a line in the sand. And you guys just interrupt me if my audio starts to degrade. But
so far so good. Yeah, we're good.
It's tough to draw a line in the sand, because if you approach somebody and you say, hey, as people sometimes confuse what I do and what others do for hunting for a living. So if people say, hey, I want to hunt for a living, I'm willing to use this trail camera, this bow, this, arrow, all these different products, all these different companies, and they're willing to basically sell their soul to be able to afford their avocation, their hobby. It's a slippery slope, because it might work for a year or two for them to bring dollars in to fund this project, but very quickly the message will get watered down and very muddied, because these companies will want them to do ABC, and it's going to start to affect their work. And so what I was saying to you guys earlier is, you can film just about anything you want and make it really interesting if you have something interesting to film, something interesting to say, something to, an experience that you want to share with people. If it's interesting and you're doing it and it's real, truly real, people are going to watch it. And the more some people equate the amount of sponsors they have and the amount of stickers that they put on their truck and the amount of things that they are laying next to their dead deer or whatever it is that people do with success. And I just went the other way. I didn't want to muddy. In fact, this is a little bit of a lie, because when we first started out, we thought we had to track down sponsors to pay for what we were doing. Because ultimately we knew we wanted to sell our work, but everyone told us that no one would buy it. Everyone that we confided in, everyone that was in the industry. Mm-hmm. Mark, as you said, you kind of hate saying the industry, and I dislike it a great deal as well. But people said, no one's going to buy your work. Here's how it works. You guys get a TV show, you sell your commercials, you sell it to Realtree, to Matthews, to this food company, to whatever. They pay you X amount of dollars per commercial. You go film this cheese ball commercial, and then you get to go on so many hunts a year. And that's how the business model is done. And I had no interest in it, none whatsoever. And to the point of where within our company, in talking to the guys, just basically said, let's build a film. If it sells, great. If it doesn't, we go back to our other regular scheduled program lives, if you will. And so, I think, so you get what I'm saying, right? It's difficult to hang people, because they're like, hey, like you're wearing a Sitka shirt, right? And mm-hmm. and you're wearing a hat that is something. I'm not even sure what that is. But that, and so what I found to be the most interesting was just working with gear and products, if you will, that I completely believed in, to the tune of turning away. If I told you how much money we've walked away from, it'd probably freak you out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, it's Jay and I were kind of talking about this before, and we were like, well, when we started this, what was our mission, kind of? And it was, I narrowed it down to 3 things that we wanted to do, especially with when I started filming. I wanted to educate, recruit, and entertain at the same time. And it was just those 3 things. And at this point with the podcast, it's the same goal. But I mean, I feel like if you hang on to it, like this podcast has no commercials. We it's not sponsored by anything. And the longer you retain that, it's more valuable having creative control and not having to interrupt it with nonsense, to pull away from the actual message. And I kind of feel like that aligns with exactly what your films do. I mean, it's the message is more important than any dollars, pretty much.
Yeah, even in the beginning when we would do work, it was kind of funny, but I would talk to a bow company or a camouflage company or a boot company, whatever it may be. And we'd have these meetings and they'd say, hey, what can you do for us? And I'd say, nothing.
No.
They'd say, well, how are you going to get us eyeballs and how are you going to get us sales? And I said, I have no idea. I'm not going to do anything. I'm literally not going to do anything.
Yeah.
I'll use the gear in the manner that I use it. I'll use, like, I work with Hanwag boots and out of Germany, and they're the best hiking boots I've ever worn in my life. They're handcrafted. They're unbelievable on your feet. But I can say this because I've been buying Hanwag boots for a very long time. Sigmanta now works with them to some capacity. We help them with photography and with film and with messaging and things like that, which is what companies need. But I've been purchasing these things with my own dollars for quite a while, and that's almost every relationship that I have has kind of stemmed from the same thing. And so you end up using things that you believe in.
Right.
That's the best scenarios, when you have a bow, an arrow, tree stand, whatever it is that you almost basically want to bleed for, and then that company calls you and says, hey, we love what you're doing, we love your messaging, we love how you carry yourself with people that have questions about hunting, we'd love to work with you. That's basically how we've established all of our relationships, any of them that have mattered anyway.
Yeah that's important, because you could speak so much more authentically about something that you actually believe in, and we've I think found the same. I mean, Jay uses different gear than I use, and we'll say if something sucks, like if something's not working, we're not afraid to say it because we're not really tied to anybody. So
sure,
it does work out for the best. I guess with that, I guess we could kind of talk about, just because it's so tied in with social media now. And I feel like, it's such a love-hate relationship with social media. Like, we grow because of social media. That's how, at least for us, I mean, I don't know any other way. I mean, we're not advertising on TV. We're not putting our podcast advertisement in magazines or anything like that. It has to be social media. But at the same time, social media sound like the main message that you're getting back from it just seems like the wrong message.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on using social media and the message that we're sending in general as an outdoor community, and what could we be doing different, you think?
Oh man, you're asking me all these questions that are just like, I'll just let me just tie up my noose here.
Yeah, right.
Well, put it on. And
one thing that I think is unique is, when we started this, it's obviously an outdoor podcast. You know what I mean? We lean a lot on the hunting lifestyle and stuff like that. But pardon me, what we wanted to do was kind of get past the hunting story and get more into the hunting lifestyle. Like, what kind of music do you listen to when you're on your way to the woods? Like, what's your favorite way to cook a venison steak? Like, once the hunt's over, you know what I mean? What's it about for you? You know
Sure.
what I mean? And I think that, the social media aspect of it, as important as it is, can definitely be in Achilles' heel. So by kind of stepping outside of that box a little bit, I think it helps soften the blow of what social media can deliver. And it helps a lot of people who may not be diehard hunters, but they like wild game as a table fare. They may not be diehard hunters, but they're big fans of craft beer, which is a big aspect of what we do. We do like little craft beer segments, and we feature local brewers, that kind of thing. But it's the adventure. There's a whole new generation of people who are coming up into this lifestyle, who are less about the commercial aspect and more about the field to table, and they're more about the adventure aspect. And a lot of people love to film themselves. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, Mark and I are the same way. But if you get that really kick-ass Instagram picture post from on top of a mountain or something like that, who cares, man? You did it. You got up there, you did it. You got out of the house, you got away from, you unplugged. And I think there's a lot of people that follow along with our community that are not your typical hunting crowd. You know what I mean? And I think having an opportunity to present somebody like yourself, who has a really, I don't want to say a unique perspective, but a very very honest perspective on this. I think it's a great opportunity for people like that because I was telling Mark earlier, I said, I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of people who follow us that are listening that don't really know who Donnie is. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, because that just speaks to the diversity of the people that kind of enjoy what we do. So, the stage is yours, man. I mean, I don't worry about offending anybody or segregating any aspect or corner of the market. I mean, Mark and I have offended a lot of people. And you know what I mean? And we've heard it, man. We've caught some serious flack from a lot of people who are diehards. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the country is the same way. They're dug into their values. They're dug into their heritage. And, you mess with that. And it doesn't matter how right you are. You're messing with what I know to be gospel. Sure. You know what I mean? Sure. So I think, we've run the risk of segregating ourselves from a big part of the community just by speaking what we feel is the truth and what needs to change and that sort of thing. So, by all means, man, knock them out, have at it. Because I think you have a very, very good perception of perspective rather of where we should be. So.
Yeah. And a lot of these, these questions that you guys are asking are great. And they're just rooted in hypocrisy, right? That's all I mean, is that it's really difficult to hang anyone when you're doing the exact same thing. But a lot of life is like that. A lot of that life lives in the in-between. But obviously I use Instagram. I've never posted, I've never done a single post in my life on Instagram or Facebook. I haven't been on Facebook in, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, something like that. I'm sure Kyle's answered some people on there on my behalf, but how we've always used it, obviously, our business, it's kind of like a lot of people look at social media as a way to build their business, and that I can completely appreciate. Social media for us came after we built our business. Everything for us has come after the films. So I live the life, truly live the life, and I don't even get to live it as much as I want to, because there's now a business to run. So, there are guys that I know that are true mountain men. They're guys that just literally basically survive and live in the woods. And they're unbelievable. And they have very little to worry about besides the very important things to worry about. And it's really remarkable. But for us, it was literally who we were, who I am, the things that I wanted to do and talk about and film. And I just wanted to share it with people. I just wanted to share what this big deer would look like to people and what geese migrating would look like and how the grass is green in August and it turns tan brown in October, and the birds that you see in August, and you see these little finches and the warblers using these little woodlots and listen to their songs. But come October, it's a completely different group of birds that are there, or rather some of them that have stayed. And then you have waterfowl migrating. Like, these were experiences that I was just paying attention, all these little nitty gritties. And so we started filming and telling these stories because we thought we had something to say. We thought we had something to share with people. And then the social media comes, and then we go to North Dakota and we film the Rivers Divide, and then I'll never forget, we were sitting in the office one day and the guys were like, you need to be on Instagram. And I said, no, we don't need to do that. And they're like, no, we're going to make you a page. And so literally they made me a page, and then they would give me a photo and say, write something about this. And so I'd write what the photo meant to me, or what I wanted to say, or what I was experiencing, or what the things that I'd seen. I'd give him the text and Kyle would post it. And then he'd say, hey, it'd be great if you would go on there and write to a couple of people and just engage with a couple of people. And I enjoyed doing that anyway. People, particularly people that had something soulful to say. I mean, I don't need to hear like, yo, you're a badass or this or that. But if somebody has a real question, right?
Yeah.
So like, just a quick example, this last week, we posted a picture of me holding a dead harlequin duck, and a young lady wrote to me out of Washington or something like that. And she said that her son had rescued a harlequin duck, and that she was having a difficult time connecting her son rescuing a harlequin ducks being in Washington State, not having a lot of breeding pairs and suffering for habitat, to me holding a dead harlequin duck. And so she just had some questions to that, and we had a great conversation, and her telling me a story of her son saving a harlequin duck really brought back some memories to me, because I'd saved quite a bit of wildlife in my youth. I would find birds with broken wings. I found snakes snagged up in a fishing net and all these things. And there was a wildlife rehabilitation center near my house in Connecticut called Laughing Brook. And I would bring the people there got to know me because I would bring them. I would find turtles with a cracked shell or frogs with a broken leg. And I was shuffling these things in there. And so social media became an extension of our films, an extension of our stories. It's the trickle down effect. Spending my life in the woods and really taking a look around and really appreciating all the little nuances of the things that I see in the wild live at the top.
Right.
And then the film trickles down from that. And then the images trickle down from that. And then the Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff trickles down from that. And if it goes away tomorrow, thank God. C'est la vie. And then the negative aspect of it, and I don't want to drag anyone out, but there's a whole host of people that make a lot of money off Instagram by using their bodies. And whether that be for fishing, I know it's a very, very popular thing right now is, you see a lot of young ladies who have very shapely figures, taking a lot of photos with fish. And I get it. It's the reason Sports Illustrated has had a swimsuit edition. It's the reason Hugh Hefner had a magazine, in my opinion, tastefully done with nude women. And, these are things that are interesting to us as human beings. These things that are interesting to us as animals. We like to look at one another and we like to engage with one another. So I can't even distract from what those young ladies are doing or what any guys are doing, like let's say bodybuilding guys or whatever. But I'll guarantee you those people are far more interesting to talk to and engage with and have a lot more to offer than what appears in the photo.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I was going to start taking pictures of fish holding like fish bra thing. And I'm glad you said that because it discouraged me. Because, yeah.
So thank you.
It might be more harmful than good, But yeah, no, I mean, that's a great take on it. I mean, because people get hung up, I think, in what they think has to happen. Like this is the outline, this is start, this is finish, you know what I mean? And everything in between it just kind of, people get hung up in that, I think. And as far as stepping outside of that box, we haven't even gotten into Winds of Adak yet. I mean, we touched on it earlier, but I mean, that's something that I think more people would serve them well to see something like that, because it gives people almost justification to change the way they look at things. Because a lot of people think, well, if I don't look at it the way it's supposed to be looked at, well, then, I'm not what, I don't want to say it, the cool kids, but you kind of separate yourself from the pack a little bit. And it's real difficult to do that sometimes. So by seeing stuff like Who We Are, when you put that out, I'm sure you've addressed that short a million times since it came out. But it still holds true, the fact that it was something that was very unique when it hit the airwaves, if you will, compared to, what was hunting entertainment, hunting television. So it was very refreshing for people like myself, for Mark, for a lot of the people in our clique, if you will, who just got sick and tired of what hunting entertainment was. You know what I mean? I mean, I came up on it when I was a young guy. There was hunting shows on, but they were not able to show a kill shot. So you'd see the hunter take the shot, and then you'd see him collect the animal, and there was no actual kill shot. And that kind of, started to evolve into,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more of that content. And then it just started to get away from us, I think. And I think, like Mark referenced earlier, the sponsorships had a role in that. And, this week you're going to hunt here. This guy's going to set a stand for you. You're going to go kill the deer. Make sure you get the bow and the, take the picture of you putting the release on and the, that kind of thing. And there's like an expectation there.
Well, and I think it all stems from, and this is my opinion, but it all stems from like you take like the Drury brothers, who are good friends of mine. You take like Lee and Tiffany, who are friends of mine, and maybe even Michael, and you, Waddell, and
yes.
like Mark and Terry Drury, they started their company up here. That was their lives. Their lives were hunting Iowa and Missouri and trying to, like I remember, I talked to Mark and Terry all the time, and I remember when they would freak out on camera over killing a 3-year-old deer. Now they're passing deer that are stupid, and so, but their company started up here with a love of the outdoors, and then it trickled down, and sometimes I even tease them now that they've gotten away from who they were. But same with Lee and Tiffany. They started hunting together and doing all of this stuff. And then people started, my point is, these companies started glomming onto these guys in a good way and saying, hey, Mark, Terry, we love that you guys love what you do. We love the imagery of you guys in a twisted burrow early in the morning on your tree stand. You have your Hoyt bows, you have your white fletchings. You're filming things in the whitetail woods that really haven't been filmed before, fights and deer breeding and all these different things that they've had. And then it trickles down into companies wanting to support that. Same with Lee and Tiffany. But now if I feel like it's going the other way. So people are like, hey, I want to hunt for a living. So now I have to build a Facebook page. I have to build an Instagram page. I have to try to connect with as many companies as I can to fund the project, to try to get up to the lifestyle that they're looking for, right? They don't. And I wonder if there wasn't, this is a very negative statement, and I've thought about it a lot, but I can't make a decision on it. But if there wasn't Instagram or Facebook, if there wasn't hunting products, who would hunt? Other than, this is who we are. This is our society. It's in our DNA.
Right.
We come from hunters and gatherers. We're animals. We are animals that have risen above other animals in the animal kingdom. If you read Aldo Leopold, he says something in this book where we forced the passenger pigeon into extinction. We killed the passenger pigeon into extinction because of how much pressure the passenger pigeon was putting on new farmers, right? We are still converting the United States from prairie and forest into row crops. And when the pigeons would come, it was a ton of pressure on farm crops. And so, we hunted these things to extinction because we probably felt like we had to or should or could, or maybe we didn't try and hunt them to extinction, but that was just a byproduct. I'm not educated enough on the story, but Aldo says human beings we're animals, nothing more. But our distinction is we know when the passenger pigeon is gone. Right. And we erect statues about them. We put them in museums. We write books about them. We tell the stories of yesteryear when the skies were black with passenger pigeons. If human beings had become extinct, the passenger pigeon wouldn't give it another thought. So that's where we rise above, and we're essentially a unique animal in the kingdom, but an animal nonetheless, in my opinion, right. An animal nonetheless. And so that is where our hunting comes from. But I wonder now that we've transcended away from hunting as a necessity to thrive as a population, as a people, as a tribe, as a group, I wonder now that we're past that. We have grocery stores and restaurants, and farmers grow food for us, and butchers, slaughterhouses kill animals for us. I wonder now that we have these things, if you took away the popularity, if you took away the stickered up trucks, the social media, all this stuff, I wonder how many people would really pick up a bow and head to the woods for the experience of literally, watching an American red start flutter by them and land on a branch, appreciate the colors and what that little bird is going through that day in his forest, and then moving on. Because, you know, I'm curious about it. I don't know.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I mean, so technically it's helping the numbers. It's helping.
But
at the same time, it's so warped. It's just such a weird thing to talk about. It's just, you just end up conflicted with yourself when you think about it. I mean,
I get a lot of letters from non-hunters, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because the people that it's such a gross overstatement. You'll hear me say I and me, but it's we. I have a group of guys that I work with that none of you would even know who I am or see anything. Like we post these photos and people are always like, oh, that's a beautiful photo. Well, I didn't freaking take it. I don't even, the crew took it, and they're so vastly talented, and we do this all together. It takes all of us to pull this off. But my point is, like, I get letters from people that don't necessarily want to identify as being a hunter, but they now are inspired to go and source their own experience and their own food. So they probably still don't call themselves a hunter, but they're probably more a hunter than those that beat their chest and say, I'm a hunter.
Yeah. Sure. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, like we've talked about, like, here, especially in Pennsylvania, we have these two schools of meat hunter and trophy hunter. You know what I mean? There's a lot in between, but those are the extremes of the spectrum. And, I think we can find value in both. You know what I mean? There's, the guy with the stickers all over the truck, and he's got every year he's got a new bow, and he's got, he just kind of lives for that aspect of it. And then there's the other guy who's with a recurve and, the black and red checkered, shirt out there sitting against a tree stump, waiting for a doe to come by. And I think there's a tremendous amount of value in both, because the guy who's got the stickers on his truck is advertising, like, I'm part of this movement. I'm part of this community. And as much money as he spends on all that new stuff, that money's going to a good place. You know what I mean? When it comes to Pittman Robertson and all that stuff, I mean, that money's being well used. So there's value in every aspect of it. I think, the goal that we've tried to accomplish is to bring it back to the Cro-Magnon, the whole feeling that you get. I mean, you can't explain to somebody that rush when you loose an arrow and that, that animal is going to be about 60 yards away waiting for you. And there's a feeling that comes over you that is really, it's extremely difficult to articulate that until you experience it. And I think that's kind of the goal, is to bring it back to that aspect, to the hunt versus the kill. Because, I mean, that's a small percentage of the whole aspect. You know what I mean? And for people who do not hunt, they don't see that. So to be able to kind of, share that, you know what I mean? That's been a bit of a struggle for us, but it's always been that unspoken goal for Mark and I to kind of try to climb that hill. I mean, I heard a conversation that you'd had a few years ago about the Seeker series that you did with Discovery, and how you kind of had to go in front of a bunch of people and discuss I don't want to say if pitch is the right word, but have a discussion about your ideals in front of rooms full of people who are not hunters, and how challenging that must have been. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do. It's really easy to stay in the echo chamber and talk to other hunters about what's going on, but to kind of get out of that bubble a little bit, and like, in your opinion, what's the best way we can kind of attack that? I mean, it's a truly challenging endeavor when you think about it, because you get a lot of pushback, no question. I'm sure all about that. But in your opinion, like, what's the way that we can kind of attack that, that task of going with people who don't understand a lick of what we do, don't share that passion?
Yeah, that moment that you spoke of with Discovery, I spoke that was in Manhattan, in downtown New York City, at a very highfalutin place. I don't even remember.
A lot of hunters around them parts, I'm sure.
Man, and even when before I even took the stage, one of the guys at Discovery said, "Hey, I don't want to add any pressure to you, but the first 3 rows of the audience represent I forget what he said, but it was hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion in advertising for Discovery Channel. And so, or for Discovery overall. And, you know, it was companies like Toyota and Intel and Google and all of these, you know, advertisers. And, so what I did there is I just went out and I told some stories. I didn't want to go out and give a pitch on why we hunt or what it means to be a hunter, but I just went out and told some stories about being in Alaska and being around grizzly bears and around wolves and around the northern lights and things that I'd seen and things that I experienced. And I knew they'd want a little bit of a sensational story. And a few years ago when I was in the Arctic, I had a grizzly bear that was coming towards our camp, and I ran at him to give him my win so he would run off. So I knew the audience would be like, well, you ran at a grizzly bear, you know, which isn't not entirely sane at some, you know, depending on the situation. But I think we win people over by getting them to engage with us in a conversation. We win people over by carrying ourselves in a very high manner, in hunting with the highest of ethics, hunting in the most difficult fashion, remaining as unmacho as possible, not diminishing your response or your return, but whether you have a camera on you, whether you have your buddies with you, whether no one's paying attention at all, you know, I would kind of urge you to hunt as though the world is paying attention, and as though, you know, you have a game warden in your pocket, and you know, have a mental fortitude of putting yourself in the animal's shoes, if you will, and uphold that respect for the areas that you're in, and understand that if you were the doe or you were the buck, or, you know, this is so far out of left field, but, you know, how would you want to be killed? Like, who would you want hunting you? How does it, you know, like, it's a relationship. And of course you don't want to be killed, right? Which is why they have all these fantastic instincts. But I would just tell people to remain as open-minded as you possibly can. If you think you know what you're doing, if you think you know why you're a hunter, if you think what you're doing is right, then you're far smarter than I am, because there are so many variables that we have to ask ourselves all the time. If what we're doing is contributing to an area, and it doesn't always necessarily have to contribute. It can be a non-event, right? It can be a zero sum. Like you know, if I go out of the cabin here and shoot a doe in September, it actually probably does help the area around here, because there's a lot of car-deer collisions and the deer are actually overpopulated around here. But if I also don't go shoot that doe, it's probably not going to have that catastrophic of an effect. I almost said fast forward, but if you take that up to Alaska and some of the areas that I've done research in, they have very low moose densities. And if there's no hunting for cow moose, but they get poached all the time by people that don't really understand how the ecosystem works. And if you take a cow moose and you look at her contribution to the herd over 10 life cycles, and so I'm making these circles. So it's like the rings on a tree. You go out 10 circles from a single cow moose in the middle. I forget the exact numbers, but she contributes about 250 animals to the herd over 10 years. So shooting a cow moose there has a fantastic effect on the population. And so we have to educate ourselves and understand what it is that we're doing and what we're up to. A few years ago, I was hunting in the Arctic. In fact, the wolves that you see and who we are. Right. I spent 21 or 31, I think it was 21 days in the Arctic, and we kept running into this pack of wolves. And when the pilot picked us up at the end, he was asking us what we had seen, because we hadn't spoke since he dropped us off 3 weeks earlier. And he said, "Did you see any wolves?" And I said, "Yeah, we saw quite a few wolves, but from a single pack." And they would come up and kind of spend time with us, and they'd come into the camp. And a couple of times when I was stalking moose, they would stalk moose with me. And a couple of times it kind of felt like they were stalking us. Not really, but they would come in and check us out. And he said, "Oh," because I had a wolf tag. And he's like, I had actually had a couple of wolf tags. He's like, "Oh, did you shoot any of them?" Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I didn't. He goes, oh, I really wish you would have. They put a lot of pressure on the moose in this valley. Now, if I would have known that, I'm not a wolf hunter. That's not my style. It's not something that I'm interested in. But if I would have known that, I potentially would have arrowed a wolf or two just to help with some sort of balance.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I have some, like, there's just different things like that. Like having this perspective and having this wherewithal. And like this young lady that wrote me the other day, and she said she didn't say this, but she kind of was saying in a very polite manner, how dare you for shooting a harlequin duck?
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing that well up there? And to her question, I didn't know. Although where we were hunting in Alaska was as wild and untapped as any place I've ever been at the end of the Aleutian chain. There were ducks everywhere. There's more birds there than I've seen there's more birds there than I've seen in the jungle than I've seen in Central America. And so it's just it was unbelievable. And I killed like 6 ducks or something like that the whole time we were there. And so I felt as though I had very little impact. We killed just enough to have some dinners with friends. And but that's what you look at, right? That's how you have to behave as though somebody is watching you. You have to hunt as though you're the one being hunted. We have to conduct this in the highest of ethics. Otherwise, you're selling yourself short, man. And somebody is going to catch you with your hand in the cookie jar.
Right.
And when they do, I hope they come down on you with a fierce force.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, everything that you just said there, I mean, it echoes the kind of character that you uphold, if that makes sense. And a common theme, I think, in our podcast and the content we put out that we try to make known is that this sort of lifestyle kind of builds a certain type of character. And it, you're talking about the biology behind this, and you're using the scientific method, and you're being mindful of other life. And I mean, it just builds that certain type of character. And we actually got a message on the page that they wanted to ask this question. I think this kind of ties into this because this is another characteristic that I think, you mentioned, like having the fortitude. Back in the Rivers Divide, when you hit Steve the first time, dealing with the emotions behind that and that heartache. And I mean, we all know it. It just happened to me a couple of years ago. It's awful. How do you feel that you best deal with that? And what do you think when you come out on the other side of that? How much better of a person do you think you are from an experience like that?
Well, I think I'm probably more sensitive a human being than most people or men, certain. But like that night that I shot Steve in the shoulder, a lot of hunters, and I had a bit of this too. So I don't want you to think that this was not on my mind, but a lot of hunters maybe would have been upset that they didn't get their hands on his antlers, right? They didn't get their hands on this deer that they had been hunting. And you see him when he comes in that night, he's so fancy, he's just like, oh my God, I want to touch this thing. Cause it's just like, God, it's just like this walking piece of art. And, but then I'm laying in bed, like I'm quite literally laying in bed thinking about him laying in his bed and the amount of pain that he's in. So I'm laying in bed and I was literally laying there kind of touching my shoulder, and I'm like, what would a broadhead feel like in my scapula? The distal portion of my scapula? It had to be agonizing,
right?
I think maybe. And so I'm laying there going, it was my motivation to be successful as a hunter, to shoot the biggest deer of my life. Like these are shortcomings that I live with as well, in my opinion. If he hadn't grown that massive set of antlers, I probably wouldn't have been nearly as nervous. I may not have even have shot him. So it's so weird when you think about if he would have looked identical, his whole body, lived the exact same life that he lived, but grew a smaller set of antlers or something, I might have been like, he's just a this, or he's just a that. But the fact was, he was a specimen, and I'm not going to apologize for that. And when animals, I don't care what you are, when you grow, when there's a unique set of circumstances, something's bluer than it generally is, something is more red, something is taller, heavier. Antler growth, of course, is something that's sensational and unique. And so, but I would be perplexed. Like, I wanted to be successful as a hunter, and then I'm agonizing over the pain that I caused, Steven. Even the day that I kill him, you watch him walk in, and he has a little hitch in his giddy up. No, I doubt it was bugging him at all. These things are amazing animals. They're super, super tough, but he still had a little, like, a leftover a year later. So did I articulate that well? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yes, absolutely.
I'm feeling sorry for myself and sorry for the deer. And I'm sitting there going, what did you do? I'm sitting there first for him. I'm going, what did you do, Donnie? You're a monster. And then for myself, I'm like, what did you do? I can't share this with anyone now.
Yeah.
Until the story's complete. Right.
Yep. I've been there.
It's a super challenging kind of dichotomy. I mean, when we decide that we're going to pursue the life of a hunter, then, failure becomes part of the tapestry. That's just it. You know what I mean? And it's how you deal with that failure. And the more times it's presented to you, the more opportunities you have to kind of build yourself up a little bit. And I think that you hit it right on the head. I mean, you got to have empathy for the creatures we pursue. I mean, because as much as we can tell ourselves we're helping them by doing this, something has to die in order for that to happen. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge that you struggle with in the moment. I think, it's not something that we hyper focus on leading up to that moment. It's in the moment that it washes over us. You know what I mean? And again, another challenging thing to express to somebody who hasn't done it. But, Mark said he had it happen, to him recently. And it was another beautiful animal. And it's one of those things. And we've had lengthy conversations about it. It's hard. It's really, really hard to kind of get past. And I don't know that we ever really get past it. It's just, it becomes, a piece on your chessboard, maybe, is a good way to say it, that you can kind of use to manipulate your next decision. You know what I mean? But yeah, it really is. It's part of it, as much as it sucks to just, I don't want to make it sound like I'm, disgenuine about it, but it's part of what we do. But it's how you, I think, react and handle it in the long term, that really kind of builds us up as to, who we have the potential to be, I think.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I've had some instances when I first started bow hunting where I actually used to lie to people. I would go to different hunting camps and stuff, and guys would say just what you just said. They'd say, man, you hunt long enough and you miss some, you wound some. It's part of it. It's disgraceful to feel as a hunter. Well, my first maybe like 30 animals that I shot, I went perfect. And so guys would be like, yeah, and I'd say, yeah, I know, I've been down that road. But then now I've discovered that right now I went through target panic in my life. And so I had some of those experiences. So now I know what the people are referring to. But yes, it's terribly to mention it, but it's part of it. But so is everything in life, has such degradations attached to it. Everything.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, I think we should probably talk about the film a little bit.
Yeah. Now that we have a good connection.
This has been fantastic. Yeah. And this was honestly what I hoped it was going to be, to have these great, deep conversations. And your honesty is your genuine. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And again, that comes through in the film. Mark and I were talking about, certain scenes in the new film that are just like, they strike you. You know what I mean? They really, really do. And, you know, it's like we're big food guys. You know what I mean? So kind of everything, it's rare you're going to find an episode of the podcast where we don't, in some level, talk about food in some way. And as I was watching the film, I mean, I got to watch it, like I said, it was like around 1-2 o'clock this morning when I was watching it. And it just started kind of coming to me like to put together a film like this. It's kind of like grandma's sauce. You know what I mean? You need all these good ingredients to put it in a pot to make something really, really extraordinary, but you got to have good ingredients to start out, whether it's like the cinematography, like the film opens with some really cool wide angle, epic, you know, shots of the ocean, like real contrasty images. And, you know, you have the story, which is written very well and told very well. I mean, with, you know, little subtle things like bookending the film with the plane and the runway. We're not giving too much away, but it's a really cool thing that caught my eye. And I was like, that is really on point. That's spot on. You know, the island itself kind of became a character itself in the film, you know, in the location. But then there's the music. You know, I think that's something that gets overlooked. I think it's just as important as all the other aspects. And I don't think any of those other aspects really can, you know, pull an emotion like perfectly timed music and well written score. You know, like what's the process with you guys over at Sick Man? And when you decide that, like, okay, this is a section, like for instance, you know, a harvest scene, like this is the mood I want. Is this the kind of instrument I want? I mean, I know Casey Olsen's a big part of that. I mean, like, how much are you guys all involved in that? Do you have a meeting and say, this is what it is, or you just give him free reign and just let him run with it?
Yeah, we, for the most part, we give him free reign. Like, well, and he's not a hunter. He loves being out. He's not a hunter at all. He's never hunted in his life. He loves being outside. He has a great appreciation for everything wild. But yeah, so we'll, you know, obviously when we go to a place, we have some idea of the assets that we want to collect, right? Throughout an individual day, we try to film each day, and it's very difficult to do this. It's kind of like when somebody tells you to live your life like you're dying. You know, it's easy to say that, and if you could do that, it'd be a tremendous. But none of us do that. But we'll go and try to film each day as though we only have a day to tell the story. So that's kind of how we approach things. And then we come home, look at our assets, and come up with a skeleton of the story we want to tell. Kyle is instrumental in that as he's starting to editing together big chunks. And then as we start to narrow down what this is going to start to look and feel like, Casey will drop in music that is similar to what he thinks is going to kind of feel in that area. And Kyle or myself might say, oh, you know, we need an uptick here. Or, you know, like we need a little bit more energy here, a little less. But by and large, it's Casey and what he feels the scene dictates. And then oftentimes he'll come and talk to me and he'll say, okay, you know, like you had this grizzly bear charging you and it had to be shot. Were you scared? I'll say, no, I wasn't scared. And he'll say, you know, were you overwhelmed? But, you know, did it feel overwhelming? I'll say, yeah, you know what? It did feel overwhelming because it was in the heart of me having some target panic, and I sat through my shot really well. I didn't let the fact that a big bear was so close get in my head, and I executed on my shot perfectly on my side, and my arrow hit a twig. So I'll tell him these things, and then he'll say, oh, okay. And he'll just go into his studio and he'll start playing with music, and then he'll come out and say, you know, what is this? What about this? And then we'll kind of go back and forth. And one of the things that I've never been a part of, and how they do it, I have no idea. But you guys heard the music when I kill the bull in this film. And how they identify this type of music and these lyrics and these women or men, I have no idea. But when they play it, that's it. You know, for instance, when I kill Steve in The Rivers Divide, you hear that young lady start singing. Mm-hmm. Well, Casey was playing in a band, and I think he was in Missouri, and his band was up next, and he came walking into this bar, and that young lady that sang that song in the Rivers Divide was up on the stage singing. And he says to me when he walked in that he said, "Oh, yeah, she's Steve. Yeah, I can hear it. Like she's Steve." So he literally approached her. He paid her $20 out of his pocket because he didn't have any money. And she came out to his van with him and recorded that song that he wrote the lyrics to into a little microphone in the back of his van. And that's the song that you hear in the Rivers Divide.
How awesome.
That's unbelievable. Yeah. And it's weird the way things come together like that. And as a filmmaker, God, it's like, I feel like I spend 10% of my time editing, and I spend 90% of my time looking for the right sounds and music to go with it. And and then sound design comes, right? And Foley work, which most people don't even really understand or appreciate. And so Casey's asking me, like, if a bird flies away, we sit down and he's like, what species of bird was that, Donnie? And what cadence of wing beat would it have? And how, if we didn't capture it naturally, how can I enhance it? How can we reconstruct it? How can we bring our viewer to that situation with a particular, and a few years ago, we had some film pieces that we were putting together, and I was watching it, and I'd watched it. We watch our work so much and watch it. Finally, I watched it, and at one point they had cranes were flying over us, but they had the sounds of Canada geese was in the music. And I said, and it finally hit me, and I said, Casey, those are cranes, they're not geese. And Kyle looked at Casey and said, I told you he was going to catch it. Yeah.
So like they were trying to pull a fast one on me, but like
Yeah.
But the sound design is just as important, whether that be, like Steve walking through the grass, or a barn door closing, or, a truck door closing, or whatever it may be, a bird flying away.
Yeah. There was a little spot in the new film where you're in your tent talking and you turned off your headlamp. And like, you didn't catch that little noise on the way he just dropped that little piece in there. I was like, damn, that's good. Like you thought of everything. He thought of everything. You know what I mean? So kudos to you and the team, everybody who worked on it.
That's really fun. Thank you. But that's really funny that you bring that up, because he had that as silent just up until just a few days ago. And I was watching the film again, and I just said, Casey, like all I did was go off of my reaction. And so when I was watching it and the screen just fell to black and went to quiet, I was like, for a split second, and I know what the film is, but for a split second, I thought we made a mistake. That we missed a frame dropped out or whatever. So I just said to those guys, I was like, it just feels it has so much finality right then. So and he's like, do you want a little click in there? And I said, well, I really like in the Rivers Divide when I shut the light off in the barn, it goes boom.
Right.
And then so you've heard it. I haven't even heard it.
Oh man, it's spot on, man.
I haven't even heard it, because he said, I'll fix it. He said, I'll fix it. And I said, okay, that's great. And I haven't even heard it yet. So you've heard it and I haven't.
Yeah. It's I'm just starting to pick up on this stuff. I mean, Mark's more advanced in filmmaking than I am, but I'm just starting to kind of get into the editing aspect and the sound design and how to really kind of enhance something with small little details. You know what I mean? And that was something I picked up on, like kind of bookending the film with the runway, that I just thought was, it made it for such a small piece and with no character in it, it made a difference. You know what I mean? It underscored a lot of the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions of the film. And I mean, and that's, I don't want to call it silly, but it's just this little tiny click. And it just was like, that was it. Cause it transitions perfect. You know what I mean? So kudos to all those guys working on that film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because is it Kyle that edited as well? He directed and edited? And then
directed and edited. William Altman is our director of photography.
Right.
Super freaking talented guy. One of the most talented human beings I've ever met in everything that he does. Myself in the writing, and obviously just being in front of the camera and just living my life. And then Casey doing the music and sound design. And Casey has Casey's so talented. It's and he like
agreed.
Jay, I think you wanted to talk to him before I got on. You wanted me to give him my headset, and he was standing
I just
right over
wanted
there,
to give him a nod, like hell yeah, man, well done, because I'm a fan.
And he won't. he won't. He's like he said he was just over by the door, and I said, hey, this guy wants to pay you a compliment, and he goes, he said he loves the music. He goes, yeah, it's from the heart. That's all he says, and he walked out the door. But like
you can tell.
In the credits, you can see photos of us all, except for him. And he told us if we put a photo of him in there that he was going to delete all of the music.
I do want to just touch back on you mentioned that harvest sequence. It's perfect. I mean, it really is, man. I watched it. I told you I made my wife watch it last night, and we were both sitting there with like lumps in our throat. It just pulls so much emotion out of you.
That was
anyone who's watching this August 9th, 8:00, you have to watch it. It's one of those films that's going to be good for people who don't hunt, because it's just that story is there. It's going to
agreed.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it, but what happened right before that is just like,
I talked to Kyle. We're not going to talk about it. That entire, from that point to for the next, I don't know, I'm assuming 20 minutes, half hour, whatever it was for you, just had to be so overwhelming. Like it just.
Yeah, and we I don't want to oversell this, but it would have been pretty easy that day for all of us to lose our lives.
Yeah.
The sea that we had to cross was as unstable as any I've ever been in. Didn't realize, I've seen video, I guess, but I didn't realize the sea could be so disorganized. I thought I've been in a couple of rip currents when the current was changing direction, that I've seen the seas be really disorganized with like 6 to 7 foot waves.
Yeah.
I've never seen it in such grand fashion with such towering waves and with the wind, the currents, and the tides. I mean, like, it was gnarly, man. It's like there's a lot of emotion that day.
There's one shot, I think, during that sequence where it's like the wave just kind of takes over the entire screen, and it's like, wow, okay, so that's a serious wave.
And we didn't film anything. As soon as we got into it, like cameras, I won't even say. So when I'm in the back of the boat and I'm looking through the windows, I'm holding on outside because I'm too nervous. I'm too scared to be inside. Yet Corey wants us all inside because he's anticipating we're going to roll over 360 degrees, like cab underwater.
Yeah. And
then the ship would right itself and then bail itself. So he's anticipating that we are going to roll all the way over. So he's like, if you guys fall out, you're done. I can't even turn around to get you. I just call the Coast Guard and say his body fell out here, and they'll probably never find you. So it's not that necessarily was going to happen, but that could have happened. Those were the types of seas that we're in. So I'm holding on the outside. So I'm looking through these windows, and I can literally see, we filmed it on 2 Sony FS7s. So for people that don't know, that's like a over the shoulder, not as big as like a TV camera, but bigger than like a consumer camera.
Sure.
And then we have other little cameras, but several times I'm looking through the windows and I can see the cameras literally just shoot across the cab, smashing to the other side. And then I see literally Corey, which you guys have seen in the film now, seeing the captain, literally his body flying out of his captain's chair, flying all the way back and like smashing against the opposite side. And then he's scrambling to get back in his chair because you can see his wheel is just spinning as the boat is canting and sliding down these waves. And it was both on the way there to the hunt and on the way home.
Yeah.
And it was very, it had all of our attention.
Yeah. My anxiety is here.
Yeah. I'm a little puckered over here myself, man.
My God.
It was scary. I'd love to tell you that I wasn't afraid, but it was,
Yeah.
the water's like 40 degrees.
You felt alive that day.
Yeah, you'd have 10 minutes, 15 minutes to swim, 30 minutes maybe tops to swim
with the temperature and whatnot. Yeah,
you're not gonna live. You're not gonna 100%. You're not gonna live.
Yeah,
and I think that came through a lot. You know what I mean? Because again, you didn't really get too much into that in the film, but a lot of the descriptions that you kind of provided were, and just with the video and the cinematography and stuff, it was pretty evident that those seas were not kind while you were there. Yeah. You know what I mean? They were not kind. Yeah. They were not happy to see you. But it was something else, man.
The day that they picked us up, they dropped us off and then he came and picked us up. I was talking to Corey's partner, Scott, and I was like, "Hey guys, good to see you." And he's like, "Hey man," and he's very chill. He's super, super dry personality. And in fact, this is off subject, but the picture, the section of film in the back where you can see him smiling through the window at the end is maybe my favorite scene in the whole film. Like, I just love that. I love seeing his smile. But he said, I could see it in his face. He was a little off center. And I said, how was it? And he goes, "It's worst seas I've ever been in." And I said, come on, man. And he's like, "No, when we came around the north side down," he's like, "We actually were going to radio the island and tell them that we couldn't turn the boat and we were going to have to steam to the next set of islands."
Oh, wow.
Because literally it's too dangerous to make the corner. And then literally a big, huge wave smashed into the boat and just kind of pushed it over and pushed them in the direction they had to go anyway, out of their control. And so then they just hit it full steam ahead and just try to push out of the, I'm not talking about seas like The Perfect Storm, that film, but I'm talking about scenarios like The Perfect Storm, where the seas are so big and coming from so many different directions that really the captain doesn't know
what do you do?
What the right decision is. That's right.
Yeah. I mean,
that's I don't know if it was the first segment or this segment where we're talking about the film itself, but like the island, the sea, it all became its own character. There's Donnie Vincent, there's the animals, there's the sea and the island. It's like they were their own character, and they were such a part of the film that it was just, man, it was just like one of those, is that something that I guess it's hard to anticipate something like that, but is it something that was surprising to you that it was as much of a factor as it was, or was it just kind of, I don't want to call it bonus, but like that it turned out that way? I think we had one, it was Dave Castle. He's one of the guys that, we're pretty good friends with. He said, how difficult was it to match up the cinematography to the story and the feelings of the experience? I mean, is that kind of something that you leave open, like when you're there?
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm not going to say it's difficult, because I think William and some of the other photographers that we had there, I think they're just so vastly talented. And William and I had been, we were in Alaska this last year for 8 weeks, and so we had already been on some in some situations that were extremely dangerous in the ice and snow in the Chugach Mountains while we were archery hunting Dall sheep. And and so these guys just kind of go the extra mile for the most part to get the cinematography. So I'm not really ever worried that they're not going to be able to represent the island or the ruins or the waves that were there. I wish we would have been able to capture the rough stuff. I wish we could have hit pause and said, "Hey, is everyone going to live? Everyone's going to live today? Okay, great. Now that I know that everyone's going to live, let's push the envelope. Let's really ride the line." Yeah. But in the moment, because I really would love some of that footage to be in there, but I don't even know if we'd be able to play it right, because the camera is literally changing by like 25 or 30 feet in a few seconds.
Yeah.
So like some of the times the boat, some of the times we'd be going up a wave and the wave would fall out. And literally you're in the boat looking down like you're about to jump off a bridge. It's just like, and it just quiet, just boom, you'd hit so hard. And then before you can even mentally recover from that, physically get your canter, like all of a sudden now a wave is pushing you off your back right side and it's pushing the boat down and you're skidding into another one and a wave is coming over the top of you, right? Like water's running down into your pants because it's going down into your collar because waves are coming over the top of you. And so I wish, to answer David's question, I wish we could have captured things like that. But it's just too messed up to do so. And we're not, you know, we're not planet Earth. We're not equipped to have helicopters with $1 million cameras off the nose of the helicopter to capture stuff like that. So I always hold the guys in the highest regard of what they captured, but you hear about the Bering Sea, you hear about these massive 120-foot crab boats going down in the swell. I called Corey a couple of times before we got there and I just said, like, man, like, tell me about the swell. And he's like, we'll be fine. You know, he's like, we can always find areas of the island. And he was being a really good steward of the land and of the sea. But, you know, I was like, is it ever calm? And he's like, yeah. You know, he's like, it's calm, but he's like, not in November. Like, it's not,
right.
It's not going to be in November. In the area of the island that we went to hunt, he literally told me after we got back at like midnight. And he told me, he's like, I'll never go to that part of the island in November again, ever.
Wow.
He's like, I'll never, ever take anyone there again.
That's wild, man. For somebody who does that as much as he does, to say that. I mean, incredible. One of the questions that my wife actually had was, how do you come across, or I don't know if it's come across, but come up with the idea to say, all right, let's go to Adak Island? Like, how do you find, like, you're known for that one quote, you know, if you want to experience fantastic things, you have to go to fantastic places. How do you have a list? How are you coming across these places to go to? Like, am I asking too many, like asking your secret here?
No. And this has probably a very black and white, a very detailed answer that is probably not as sexy as you would hope. Although there's a lot of other answers that I could give you that would be a little bit more intriguing. This came from nuts and bolts. We knew that, and this is the commercial side of things. So I don't want to detract from anything that I did or the crew did, or but this came from the commercial side of things with Benelli. And when we started this project, they said, we want to introduce the world to our new bolt action rifle. We want to introduce the world to, they have their new Super Black Eagle 3 waterfowl gun. They have this new coating on it called the BEST, BEST. And they can, if you want to learn more about it, go to Benelli and learn. But they basically have been taking their shotguns and submersing them in salt water for over a year and pulling them out without any rust on them.
Yeah.
With this new, I think it's made out of diamond coating.
That's great.
And then their 828 AU over under previous to this year was only offered in 12 gauge. This year they offered it in 20 gauge. So they said, Donnie, we want to give you these 3 guns. We want you to go and do whatever it is that you want to do. And so a good friend of mine and a good friend of Sikmanta's, Lee Chose. Are you guys familiar with Lee Chose's work?
I can't say that I am.
You know, look it up. You'll be blown away. He's done a lot. You've seen tons of his work. You just don't know it. He does really handsome ads. His last name is spelled KJOS. He has a company called Chose Outdoors. He's a fantastic photographer. But he suggested that we go to Adak because he just said, Donnie, you've got caribou, which he knew very little about. He doesn't do any big game hunting, but he's like, I think there's caribou there essentially. He's like, we have, upland hunting, and then we have sea ducks. So we can, and we have a lot of diversity there with the ocean and everything. And so I said, yeah, that's something that's quite intriguing. I think I would have I had other areas that I really wanted to go to that would have handled the upland birds and the caribou even better than Adak. But the ducks were kind of the trump card there. And so that's what took us to Adak. It was a place that I've always wanted to go. This was an awesome opportunity to get there, to see it and to experience it. And it was more than I'd ever hoped. Like, it was place is so wild. The water is so insane in the military ruins, and
that was awesome.
The bombs that are there, it's insane. It's really incredible. Now, I'll go to other places because I want to experience different things. I want to see different animals. Like I find myself going up to the Arctic Circle almost every year. Right. And I go up there and I just hunt caribou for a couple of weeks. And it's because it's an experience that I just can't. It's really hard to match being 200 miles above the Arctic Circle and being able to just explore and hike and hunt. And it's really pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And I mean, the film has done a few things for me already. I mean, I've grown up in the woods of Pennsylvania, and I've always been whitetail hunter, turkey hunter, and I've got a Western hunt coming up, like my first one out of state, actually going somewhere. It's coming up in October, and I can't wait. And
where are you going?
I'll say it now. I've been trying to keep it down low, but we're going out to Montana.
Oh, well, you don't have to say anything.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, it's I think everyone kind of knew what was going on. We're going out to hunt elk with the bow. So, I've been just getting into the backpacking and the gear, and it's a whole new world. And then I watch that, and I'm just like, oh my God, like I just want to go crawling through the grass, and I just want to. It's just I can't wait. But the other thing it made me also want to do is pick up the rifle again, honestly. Because I mean, I'm such a diehard bow hunter. That's, most of the time, if I don't fill my whitetail tag in Pennsylvania, I might go out during rifle season, but I'll still take my bow for the most part. It's just, it's just, I've gotten so comfortable with it, and I don't know. I don't want to say I lost interest, but it's whatever. But now
Mark, can I interrupt you really quick?
Mm-hmm.
I want to speak to this, but do you guys mind if I use the restroom really quick?
No,
by all means. We keep buckets under our tables, so no, you're good.
Okay, hold on one moment.
Okay.
How about it, man?
Yeah, it's like the questions just keep coming here, and I feel bad because the conversation is so good right now. And
yeah, I mean, I hope he's okay with time. I mean, I only have one more question I want to ask, but it could be like the last one going out, and I'm fine with that, because it's a pretty brief one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think it would be a good finisher. But I mean, this has been fantastic, man.
Yeah,
just the honesty and the genuine nature of how he just, it's fantastic. This is way better than I could have anticipated, man.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of figured that the conversations would connect. I just
agreed.
We're right on the same page with most things, and this is kind of surreal.
Agreed. Yeah, but it doesn't. It is, but it doesn't feel that way. And you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people out there who are celebrated for their accomplishments, and they're not that easy to talk to. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like we may as well be in your basement right now having a beer. It's just the way the conversation's gone. You know what I mean?
Yep. But we could even catch some of these questions that are in here. I think there were questions.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much.
No worries, man. No worries.
When I did Rogan, Rogan kept feeding me coffee, and we talked for 3 hours, and I was just sitting there at the end. I was just like, oh
yeah,
sweet child of mine. And when we got done, he's like, okay, that's a wrap. And I was like, oh, I got to go pee. And he's like, why don't you just go pee during the show? And I was like, I can't.
He does it all the time.
Of course.
Yeah, that's something that we've always wanted to end up. It's like kind of like a little bit of a fantasy. Like Mark and I end up on Rogan somehow through all this stuff. You know what I mean? Because he's just been fantastic for the brand. You know what I mean? But
he's a good dude. But Mark, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, because we were going to talk about the like getting away from the rifle and like coming back to it.
That's what I was going to say. I think that's really cool that you're intrigued by that, and I picked up a bow a long time ago, and I was very, very blown away by the intimacy of bow hunting and the quiet of bow hunting, and never really it's not that I didn't want to pick up a gun again, but I just wasn't picking up guns again. But I was so incredibly inspired by Jack O'Connor when I was a little kid, and hearing his stories. Like, you read his stories on how he would track with a Winchester 270 and how he would follow a sheep running down a hill, and he'd, squeeze the trigger and he'd see his first impact right behind the shoulder, and he'd work the bullet, shoot him again, 2 bullet holes touching, shoot him again. And I was completely inspired by riflemen my entire life. And so a few years ago, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, the airlines lost my bow on a hunt, which doesn't bother me at all. A lot of people go, "Oh yeah, stupid airlines," but they get it right a lot. And this is the first time they ever lost my bow, and so I ended up using a gun on that hunt, and it just felt really good to carry the weight of a rifle again, and it felt really good to open up the dialogue to people that I think there's a lot of alienation going on between weapons, and I basically, when I hunt with a rifle, I basically kind of bow hunt with a rifle, and I learned that. That's why I was so inspired with Jack O'Connor and how he hunted, and then I realized, like, it's not the weapon, it's his connection with. I mean, look at Aldo Leopold, probably the greatest ecologist known to man. He hunted with a rifle and with a bow, and it's just so inspiring. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad you let me go pee. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. No, but we're ripping here. We're over 80 minutes, and then we already had some of the first little segment. I think Jay has another question, and we don't want to keep you all night. So
you guys take as long as you'd like.
Well, I mean, all the things you've done, all the places you've been, and you documented a good portion of that. I had kind of like this little softball question of like, what does Donnie Vincent's bucket list look like as of now? I mean, all the stuff you've done, all the places you've been, like, what's that? Do you still have like a pinnacle? Do you even subscribe to the concept of a bucket list, or is there something there that you're like, this is I'd be happy to hang it up after that?
Yeah, I guess I subscribe to the idea of a bucket list, but not really, because if you told me, if somebody walked in my door right now and said, I'm in Wisconsin right now, and I'm on 10 wooded acres and a little log cabin. This is where Sick Manta is. If somebody came here and said, you can't leave, you have to hunt within 10 miles of this cabin the rest of your life, no sweat. I could have the grandest adventure even on this 10 acres. If you gave me a recurve bow, or my compound bow, and a ghillie suit, or some camouflage, and I got to paint my face, and I got to go outside the cabin on a fall day when beautiful maple leaves are sinking down to the earth's floor, and I'm able to sneak along in the woods and find does or find these bucks and sneak up on them and hunt them. Like that is going to be as grand an adventure as you can fathom. It's no tree stands, it's no food plots, it's no 70-inch moose, it's not an 8-foot grizzly, it's no small airplanes or 15-pound salmon on the end of a fly rod. But it's kind of all the same to me. If you guys said, hey, we're going, if you two said every year we go to South Dakota at the end of August, and we do an early teal duck hunt, and we get on these little ponds that we have permission on, or we go knock on doors and get permission, and we all go on a blue-winged teal hunt or a green-winged teal hunt or whatever, and we bring 28 gauges, and we camp out, and we cook the ducks that we kill, and we sit under the night sky, and we have a couple of cold beers, or whatever it is, and we're going to tell stories. Like that sounds perfect to me. That sounds awesome. Now, if you ask me about my bucket list, here's what my bucket list is. It's the things that I've already done, and I just want to keep doing them. When I was younger, I had ambitions of killing the North American 29, right? I had this like, I'm gonna I'm going to kill the 4 sheep. I'm going to kill all the moose. I'm going to kill all the caribou. I'm going to kill the antelope, the mountain goat. I'm going to kill all the deer. I'm going to kill all the elk species. This is what I'm going to do, and then relatively quickly, I just kind of discovered that I just wanted to hunt with a certain group of people and hunt a certain way. And of course, I have animals that are really important to me, like Dall sheep. I love hunting Dall sheep, which coincidentally, the book that has inspired me the most is the North American Big Game Animals of North America by Jack O'Connor. The first animal he writes about is the Dall sheep. So that thing is like ingrained. The Alaska Yukon moose, the white-tailed deer, mule deer. I love waterfowling. Like, these are all things that I would rather just keep going on white-tailed deer hunts and Alaska Yukon moose hunts and maybe brown bear hunts and duck hunts and mule deer hunts. And I do want to start hunting more elk, like what you gentlemen are going to do. And those are my bucket list things, are doing things that I've already done, like mountain caribou, woodland caribou in Newfoundland. Like, I want to go back and do these things, like in Terra Nova. Like, I want to experience these things again. It's far more of who I'm with and what I'm doing. Like, I used to hunt. I was just saying this to a guy the other day. I was in Illinois. I have a property that I hunt in Illinois. And I was just talking to this guy, and we started talking about squirrel hunts. And we started and I have some unbelievable memories of squirrel hunting. And like, my friends and my dad used to make fun of me because I used to paint my face. Yeah. And I'd put on fleece camouflage and like tattered gloves. And I'd put on I would paint my face and I'd put on a tattered face mask. That's how psycho I was. And I had this little day pack, and I'd bring this little stool, and I started watching the woods because I used to go squirrel hunting and not kill any squirrels. So I started squirrel hunting, and I started saying, okay, what are the squirrels doing? Like, when you see them when you're deer hunting, or when you just see them when you're walking the woods, you're like, oh, everything's so random. Right. I thought they can't be random. So then I started watching these patterns of how they moved in the morning, how they moved in the afternoon and into the evening. So then I started getting on this little wooden chair, and I'd sit on this chair with a 22 Magnum rifle across my lap. And I would just literally sit there fully camoed up, barely breathing, until the woods came back to life from my intrusion. And then when I see a squirrel and he was in a good position, I would just raise my 22 mag up, balance it on a tree, click the safety off, put the crosshairs on his head, and he'd drop. I'd cycle the bolt and sit and just not move again. Yeah. And everything would stop. And then 5 minutes later, another one would come out. And it's like, you hear what I'm saying to you. And these are things I did on public land after gray squirrels, for God's sakes. And I can tell that story like it was yesterday, and I can tell it to you with all the enigma of, and I made a mistake of saying fantastic things happen in fantastic places. That's not true. Fantastic things happen in places where you have a fantastic mindset and you find that idea of adventure. That's where fantastic things happen. Yeah. I don't care if it's a mile from your house or on the other side of the world. And, and I hope most, if not all, whether you're a hunter or not, can find that mindset. Even if you're going to take a beautiful girl on a date, you're going to cook your beautiful wife dinner, you're going to go play with your kid, you're going to whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to go work on your car with your buddies. Like, there's a mindset that you can slip into. You're touching the wretches, you're touching the greasy bolts, you're having your buddy, you're having Jay turn over the key for the first time on his project car you guys are working on. Like, it's all the same, man. To me, it's all the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay.
Man,
damn, man, killing me here. I'm not crying, you're crying. What the hell? Damn allergies up in here, man.
I don't think we're.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that any better.
Yeah, we usually know when they can see the podcast, and I don't think we're gonna do any better than that, man. That was very eloquent. But
I appreciate that. That.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the longest ones we've done, so we could probably wrap it up. I think that it definitely calls for a second episode. I can't thank you enough for coming on.
It's truly been a pleasure.
I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it whenever you guys want. If you guys want to do one after the film goes live, I'm happy to do it. If you guys want to do one this winter, whenever, I'd be thrilled to. We have some really cool work coming up and some other films that I want to work on. So there's plenty to come.
Yeah, man. When the studio's done, we'll let you know, and we'll
extend the invite. Yeah. Maybe we'll go after some gray squirrels. We got plenty of them around here.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do it in person.
Yeah. But I don't think there's anything else to really say.
So I'll get,
thank you enough.
I have some things that I'll send you guys to give away, like some of this artwork that I found and I'll get this stuff signed up and sent off to you guys, and you guys can give it away.
That's amazing, man. Fantastic.
How much I appreciate you being on here and doing this now. I mean, you're the man.
Indeed.
But
I appreciate it, guys.
I think we're gonna wrap that up now. I'm gonna turn this off, and I don't know. I'm kind of speechless after.
Yeah. I speak for both of us. This was something we've been excited about for a minute, and it couldn't have gone any better. So again, thank you very much on behalf of myself, on behalf of Mark, on behalf of everybody who follows Sons of the Hunt community. This is huge for us, and it's huge for everybody who gets a chance to experience, who you are. If they don't know you by now, they do now. So thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, guys. I very much appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we appreciate you coming. So with that, we will wrap it up, and we will see you in episode 12.